All right, welcome to a little bit of life-size living lockdown edition. I've had a lot of friends on social media contact me with a request for tips about how to work from home. Half of my life, I am not even in Copenhagen or Denmark. I am on the road somewhere working as a consultant for a city or a developer, doing a keynote at a conference, or filming my TV series, The Life-Size City. But when I am in Copenhagen, this is where it all happens. I work from home. I've been doing this for many, many years. I've been working freelance for most of my adult life, and working from home has become a kind of a routine for me. So this whole lockdown thing in Copenhagen and what we're seeing all over the world with the coronavirus crisis, it's not really a big thing for me, but I have so many friends for whom it is a big thing. It's really difficult for them to get into the routine, to change their mindset, to start working productively from home. So I've been giving them some tips, and I thought I'd make a little film about it, and hopefully it might help some of you out there. Now in my life, when I am at home, I have two cycles. I have my kids with me for a week, every other week. So when they're here, the routine starts early in the morning and we're a bit busy. I have to get them out the door and off to school. When they're not here, I really have to make an effort to stick to the same schedule, okay? Instead of just, staying up a bit late, watching some Netflix or hanging out at a cafe with friends, sleeping in the next day, I try to stick to the same routine the entire time. So I've thought about 7 things that I do that will help create a stable work environment while you have to work from home. And the first one is really quite simple. Go to work. Sounds pretty easy, sounds pretty intuitive, but really it is important to remember that when you get out of bed in the morning, you're going to work. I have a 15-meter commute from my bedroom to where I'm sitting now. But every time I get up in the morning, I get dressed for work. I put on the same clothes that I would if I was going out or going to a job or wherever. I make a mental note in my head, get ready, and go to work. Takes a bit of training, but you get there eventually. I've learned that this is so incredibly important, man. I've had days back in the day where, I just put on some sweatpants and some slippers and an old t-shirt, with some food stains on it from dinner the night before. And it's just not the same thing. When you actually dress and you go to work, your brain is ready to do the job. Even if you're not planning to go out at any point during the day, you still have to make that mental shift in your head that you are going to do your job now. The second thing is separation. Physical and mental separation is incredibly important if you're going to try and be productive on the job in your own home. The first thing I suggest is to try and create a separate workplace in your home, a physically separate place than everything else that you normally do. I don't sit over at the dining room table over there, which would be the natural thing to do, I think, for many people, but I created instead a little desk here by the window. This is sort of the workstation, as it were. We don't really use it for anything else except for me to do the jobs that I need to do. You should find out where you want to sit in your home. Me, I created this spot here in my living room by the window because, man, I need the street. I simply cannot sit somewhere where I can't see the street. I can't see urban life flowing past me. Hey, I am an urbanist and a lifelong city dweller, so maybe fair enough. Even when I'm at my local cafe or wine bar, I get kind of weird in the head if I have my back to the street. I always have to be looking out the window and seeing what's going on, doing anthropology, doing, mental notes about everything that goes on in a city. So find the spot that works for you. If you need the window and the street, great. If you need something staring into a wall or whatever, that's what you need. Find that spot that works for you. If you live in a small home or on a smaller footprint, you have to figure out how to make this physical separation. It doesn't have to be in a completely different room if you don't have the room for that or you don't want to do that. It can also just be sitting at a different chair at the table, one that you don't always sit at. We all have routines, right? We all sit at the same spot at a table. Choose a different spot. Make it a mentally different place where you're going to do your work. Another example of this sort of mental and physical separation was something that I did years ago. I don't really do it anymore, but it worked for me for a time. In my cupboard, I had my work supplies, the food and the drink that I would consume during a work day. And it just had a little section in the cupboard. I had 2 tins of coffee. So that one coffee, that was the coffee I drank when I was working, and the other coffee was for the rest of my life. It was exactly the same coffee, but my brain said, this is work coffee, I am working. It was all these little tricks to keep manipulating your brain so you know that you're actually at work now. Even in the fridge, there was a little section on one of the shelves for, lunch and things that I would be consuming during the workday. Don't do it anymore, but it did have a great role when I was starting to work from home years ago. Another thing is make it a stable location. Okay, this is where you're going to sit down and do your work. So everything you need to do your work should be at hand. You shouldn't have to get up in the middle of the day and wander around saying, oh, where did I put that pencil? Where's that thing that I need? Where's the cable to charge my phone? Everything should be there so that when you sit down in the morning, you're ready to go and you don't have any other distractions. And it feels and looks like the workstation that you're going to be working at for the whole day. One little detail is you should be aware of the sun. Here in my apartment, there's no sun in the morning, but then it sweeps around the building and fills the apartment with light in the afternoon. Be aware of this so that you're not sitting there and, oh man, the sun, I can't see my screen, I have to move somewhere else. Be aware of it. If you want to sit there, fine. Be prepared for it, to have something to block the sun from your screen so that you stay in that one spot all day long. Establishing a routine is incredibly important. It is paramount. Go to bed and get up at the same time. Make it a rhythm. Make it a routine. Me, I get up in the morning, get dressed, do my business, go out to the kitchen and make a cup of coffee. Maybe checking my phone while the water's boiling. And then I sit myself down here and boom, brain says, time to go to work. Go to bed and get up at the same time, yes, but also start your work at the same time. Set an alarm if you have to. Your brain has to be trained to know that you're going to be doing some work now. If you're not used to working from home and you find yourself doing it now, fair enough. It's never going to be completely simple until you establish a routine. It's just a matter of training your brain. If I have to do a call or I'm being interviewed for some media somewhere by phone or by Skype, I always ask for the same times of day. About 10 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know why I do this, but I just know that 10 and 1, that's when I'm going to be doing some external calls. It's easy for me. I work freelance, so I have that luxury. But if you have to do calls, video or voice calls with colleagues or clients or whatnot, try and establish a time of day that works for you or a frame of time. And that's in your brain, that's when you're going to be doing some external calls. Here during the corona crisis, my kids are at home during the day. They're studying on their own, but they both have an established time to Skype with their teacher where the class is gathered and they're all listening to the teacher tell them what they should be doing today. And it's been working really well for my kids that they know that, 11 o'clock is the Skype with the teacher, boom. And then after that, they can start doing their schoolwork. So it's working for the kids as well, which I just found to be incredibly interesting. If you need to, make a list of what you need to do today. I always have a piece of paper with a list on it right next to my computer, and often with a little checkbox. Do this today, and when I'm done, I get to take that pencil and check it off. Oh, I really feel like I've accomplished something every time I do a little bit of a check mark in one of those boxes. A little mental boost for myself, kind of a gamification as well of my daily work. I think it's important to schedule your social calls in the time frame that you normally would. Maybe in the middle of the day, especially now during the corona crisis, people are at home and, I'm just going to call my friend and see how she's doing, how he's doing. But it's important maybe to do that outside of your normal work hours. Trying to establish a normal work pattern like you did at the office, but just doing it at home. And this one, don't tell anybody I told you this, but enjoy those days once in a while, only once in a while, where you sleep in a little bit more because last night you had an extra glass of wine with your friend or out at a cafe or whatever you're doing. You allowed yourself that luxury and you could sleep in a little bit in the morning. Don't make a routine of that, but don't feel so bad if it happens once in a while. Enjoy that little luxury. You'll have to catch up with your work maybe that day, but man, it's worth it just to feel like, yeah, I'm a grown-up. I can do this once in a while if I want. I think one of the hardest things working from home, whether you've been doing it like me for years or you're rather new at it and forced into it in the current situation, it really is try not to get distracted, okay? There are so many distractions in your own home, especially when you're there for hours and hours where you normally are somewhere else. Man, don't get distracted. And to be completely honest, this is still the hardest thing for me. I'll go out to the bathroom and, to do a normal thing out in the bathroom, and all of a sudden I find myself polishing the mirror or scrubbing the tiles in the shower, or out in the kitchen, just gonna have an extra cup of coffee, and then I find myself repotting one of my plants, or just doing stuff that I could totally do in the evenings or on the weekends, but I get distracted very, very easily. So this is really a tough one, but you gotta really focus. This next one is a bit of advice that I simply don't follow myself, and yet every single day I wish I did. But I'm gonna tell you anyway because it might be useful to you. Get out in the morning, if you can, before you go to work. If you have a cafe in your local neighborhood with good coffee, get dressed, put on a jacket, whatever, go out, get your coffee. Sit there, drink it there, read the newspaper, and then come home. Or just bring the coffee home and sit down and go to work. If you're a person who goes running, or you go to the gym or whatnot, maybe try and do that routine before you start working. But also, wherever you put those things you do, make sure they're always at the same time of day, right? It has to coincide with a normal work life. If you're at your normal job at the office, you don't just get up and go to the gym all of a sudden. You time it in the evenings or the weekends or whatever, right? So make sure that it's in a time slot that is normal. I am still really working on that one. I would just love to go down to a cafe and have a coffee and chill and drink it and read the newspaper and then come back here and go to work. When I worked in an office for a few years, I would always stop at the same cafe to get a takeaway coffee to take to work with me. Establishing that routine here in the home has been tricky for me, but it might be easier for you. Sometimes in the morning when I have my kids and they go off to school, I'll go to the supermarket and do my daily shopping in the morning. So it's kind of the same thing, and those days are always just a little bit cooler if I got that out of the way. If I left the apartment and came back and then sat down at work. It's kind of like mentally, right? Just going to work. You know, you physically move through the urban landscape and then you arrive at your job. It's kind of another mental hack. And when the first tip was very simple, go to work, the last one is also just as simple. Remember to stop working, right? Don't get sucked into it. If you're in an office and you're sitting there with all these colleagues, some of them start getting up and leaving and going off to pick up kids, or leaving for the day, and you're mentally stimulated to like, oh, I got to go too. Oh yeah, look at the time. So make sure that you keep an alarm somewhere to tell yourself to stop working. Whatever time you normally stop working, set the alarm, it rings, and you're done. Boom, close the laptop, and then do whatever else you would do on a normal workday. Go to work, stop work. Set that routine and that pattern. Well, there you have it. Hopefully some of that was useful. Just some simple tips, some simple mental hacks that hopefully will make it easier to get your brain wrapped around this idea of working from home. See you next time.